Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining our diagnostic training session today. And what you're about to see is a pre-recorded training session we did over in the United States. But be assured that a lot of the material that we cover is really applicable to any automotive application. So just be aware that yes, it is a lot of North American vehicles, but they will apply a lot of the same principles apply over in the UK as well. Now, if you do have any questions, if you're watching this during the premiere, you can just leave it in the chat. We'll be monitoring live chat. If you're watching this after the premiere, then just feel free to leave a comment underneath the video and we'll get to those as we can as well. So my name is Jason Gabrenas. I'm one of Snap-on's diagnostic technical trainers. I've been in the training department since 2013, traveling around North America, helping techs and shop owners get the most out of their diagnostic equipment. Before I did that, it was a couple years as a diagnostic sales rep at Snap-on, so I had 30 different franchisees I worked with, as well as the shops that they serviced in order to help everyone get the most out of their diagnostic needs. Then before I did that, it was 8 years at Subaru, so I worked in a dealership, and over time, I guess, just became the default diag guy in the shop. So I always ended up having the drivability problems, the intermittent problems, the weird wiring problems that would show up on those cars. And that's really where I cut my diagnostic teeth, was trying to figure out all those weird head scratcher type cars that would come into my bed. Then before that, bunch of other miscellaneous wrenching jobs. Been a little over 25 years under hood experience for me. So our topic at hand today is code-based diagnostic workflow. Now this is part one of two, so it's another two-part class. If you've been with us the past few weeks, we had a couple two-part classes there. So this is part one of two, and we're going to talk about, well, a diagnostic workflow starting with codes. So it's always good when we go through diagnosing a vehicle or really any situation with a vehicle. It's always good to have a good workflow, start here, continue here, gives us the steps to follow, and a repeatable workflow is key, right? One that I can follow every time and do it the same way, so I'm not skipping any steps. So first case we would want to do here is, we bring the customer in and we start writing them up. All right, what is the problem with the vehicle? What's the year, make, model of the vehicle? What's the customer complaint, etc. Then it comes time to check for codes. So that we'll want to do a pre-scan. Right, so that's step number one in our diagnosis. Is we want to pre-scan the vehicle. Now, why do we want to do that? Why do we call it a pre-scan? Well, we're going to scan every single module. We're going to press a code scan button on the tool, and it scans every single module for codes. Why do we want to do that? Well, because not every module has a light associated with it. You could have codes in the vehicle and it won't have any sort of a light on the dash, and you wouldn't be aware of any problem, and neither would the customer. So it could cause some sort of a problem with another system on the vehicle. So after we're done with the pre-scan, hopefully in this case we would get a code, right? And that gives us a starting point. So when we go through our code with our starting point, we want to perform a diagnosis. We want to walk through it, and really the diagnosis is its own separate workflow that we'll talk about here in a second. But there's other steps that we'd want to follow there. So walk through our diagnosis to see what the problem is. When we've discovered the problem and hopefully verified what the problem is, so we can feel confident in what our repair will be, right? So repair will be next. Perform the actual fix. Maybe I'm replacing a part, maybe I'm repairing a wiring harness, something of that nature, right? So we're going to go through and actually perform the repair with the nuts and the bolts and the wrenches. And then after that, we want to double check and make sure, are there any resets, relearns, recalibrations for this problem? I think if you've worked on any of our modern cars the last 5, 6, 7 years at least, there's usually some sort of a reset, relearn, calibration involved. One that comes to mind, GM oxygen sensors. 06 and newer GMs replace their oxygen sensor. You need to reset the heater circuit on that oxygen sensor, otherwise the sensor may fail again in pretty short order. Maybe I need to reset a transmission adaptive, right? Transmissions adapt over time. Maybe I need to reset and relearn a throttle body, replace the throttle body on a vehicle. Most vehicles you need to do that. So there's some sort of a recalibration, resetting, relearning that needs to be done on many components nowadays. You want to have an easy way to go about figuring out what that needs to be. And then once we're done with that scenario, we're going to go and we're going to probably clear the codes, then road test the vehicle to verify performance, make sure that everything is fixed on the vehicle, or at least it's driving the way it should and no new lights came on.
And then we'll do a post scan before we deliver it to the customer to verify that there are no codes left over in the vehicle, right? So we want to do the pre-scan before we start, post scan after we finish. That way we can verify with the customer, here's what was wrong when we started, and now the car, there shouldn't be anything else wrong with it at that point. So for this portion of our diagnostic workflow discussion, we're going to focus on this diagnosis phase, right? So we're going to pre-scan and then diagnose the vehicle. So if codes are found, and in this case there would be codes found because we're talking code-based. So we're going to determine an action plan, right? We need to gather information. And I think if you've been working on cars over the last decade or so, I think you've realized that really the bulk of your time, especially when it comes to diagnosis, is probably gathering information. I need this thing and this thing and this thing and this bit of information here, and bring it all together in order to perform a complete diagnosis. Everything from technical service bulletins, which should be high on your list of things to check, maybe hopefully the first thing or one of the first things to check, because the manufacturer may have figured it out. And it could be some weird off-the-wall thing that you may have never heard of before. And the manufacturer said, oh, yeah, we found this to be a problem. Maybe you should check that first. And then you could be done at that point. Read through the TSB. If that's the situation you have, then your problem's solved and you don't need to do anything else. So it's always key to check those TSBs. Also probably need OEM info, right? Diagnosis flowcharts. I might need wiring diagrams. I might need other sorts of info from the manufacturer. How about real world repair info? What have other technicians done in this same exact scenario on this same vehicle? It'd be good to know. How about data stream? I'm going to go through, I'm going to check the PIDs on my vehicle and see, what are they telling me? Because remember, the PIDs are really the computer's interpretation of what it's seeing as going on. So you might want to check that data stream to get a little insight as to what the computer's thinking. Then functional tests, right? If I have some sort of a relay or a switch or a motor that I can turn on and off with the computer, well, that's a good way to do a functional test and verify operation that way. And then how about component testing, right? This seems to be, I don't know if I want to say the least used, or maybe it's the most forgotten step when it comes to diagnosing, right? If I think this part is bad, why not test the part to see if it's actually working or not, right? Do a component test on it. Make sure, is the voltage getting to the component? Is the ground correct? Is the signal correct? Then walk through and actually verify the component has failed. If it has failed, then great, right? Then we get to the point where we're going to order a new part and then install it, right? So we get to the point where we're going to verify the failure, and that's where we're going to go today. We're going to walk through this part of the workflow and verify our failure on this vehicle. So let's go over to our Zeus. And actually, the first thing I want to do is I wanted to write up my customer, right? So I have a shop management system here. I'm going to do a new repair order for Joe Johnson. He is the founder of Snap-on. So there he is right there, Joe Johnson. And he has a Chevy Tahoe, right? So there's all his information there. And we'll pull in. There's his Chevy Tahoe with a license plate of Snappy there. And I'm going to start a repair order. I'll pull up my symptoms here, and we should have something about engine light on, right? So let's see. Where did it go? All right, so we're going to have a problem with this car. Where is it? I am blind today. All right. All right, so let's say it's a drivability problem then. Surge or chug. All right, surge or chug. There we go. Engine surging and chugging, 1 hour charged. Labor time, we can override that labor time. Let's charge them $95 for diagnosis. All right, walk through here and hit done, and that'll save it to our repair order. In a second, there we go. There's our repair order there. And I'll just go out of this, exit this repair order, and then we can work on that later. So let me get rid of that. And I've written up the customer. I know the engine light is on. Or at least I know they have a drivability problem, right? So we'll go through and we'll check it with the scanner. So I have to ID the vehicle, of course, first. So we'll go through here, and it is my 2016 Tahoe. I'll just go through and pick that off the most recently used vehicle list at the top there. And here is our vehicle information confirmation screen. Couple new functions in here I just wanted to make you aware of. First off, the VIN, right? So that'll show any of the VIN used in IDing the vehicle. So in this case, we just did year, make, model, so we only have the 3. If you do the instant ID or the auto ID function, it'll populate the complete VIN in there. You can also manually type in the VIN if you wish to do so. Also, next is odometer. Now, you could manually add it in. On some manufacturers, if they have a PID available for the odometer through the vehicle, we can actually go in and extract that now. So we'll pull out the odometer for certain vehicles. Certain vehicles don't support it. And we also want to verify the information from the vehicle is accurate, because the PID stored or the odometer stored might not necessarily be exactly what's on the screen either. So we want to make sure it matches what's on the odometer itself on the vehicle, just so we don't confuse the customer, right? So that's what we want to use on there. It could be a used module or something of that nature. And then the license plate number is always good to put in there too for identification purposes for later. So I can punch that in there, and 3 months, 3 years from now, that car comes back, I can just go search by the license plate number and pull up Mr. Snappy right here, right? So we'll hit, put all that in there. We'll hit OK. And it's in demo mode, it says. So there we go. Okay, so we're on our main screen. And of course, like you said, the first thing we want to do on any vehicles, we want to do a code scan there. So we'll hit code scan. And it is a pre-scan. We haven't done any repairs yet, so we want to scan through all those modules through here. There we go. So here's my P0300 code and a P0446 code. And you may have noticed that my screen turned gray there. That is alerting us to the fact that it saved this vehicle report. And it saves it in two places. It saves it to the vehicle record, which is on the tool. And then it also uploads it for free to the Snap-on cloud. So let me go down here on the bottom. I have this little file folder here. Save to the tool. There is my vehicle system report that I just saved. I could open it from here. And that will open in my PDF reader. And then I can take a look at my report. All right, so there's my shop information I put in the tool. And here's my code scan results. It tells us what systems have codes and what systems don't have codes. And then if our readiness monitors are complete down there at the bottom. All right, so there's one way to do it, right on the tool. There we go. And then also, as I said, it goes up to the cloud, right? So if I go to my home screen and go to the Snap-on Cloud screen, we can talk about this for a second. As I said, this is a free service. It'll upload automatically once you have the tool registered with the site. And once again, it is free to register for the site. So let me pull in here. Oops, caps lock is on. We can't have that. Boy, I'm just all out of sorts today, huh? There we go. That should work. Perfect. So here we are. That's today's date. That's a couple minutes ago, or a few seconds ago anyways. That is my vehicle system report I just produced. So if I click on that, I can get a little bit more detail. Right? It automatically tags it with search terms, so I can search through. If I have thousands of records in here, I can search through there. So it's a vehicle system report. It's a pre-scan. Here's the codes that came back, year, make, model of the vehicle. I could put in the license plate number, right? So if I wanted to put in Snappy right in there, right, I could add that as a search term. All right, so now I have Snappy down there, and I could search for that, and it would bring up any records that have Snappy attached to it. I can also click right here at the top where it says Vehicle System Report. It'll open a new window, and then I could print it out this way. Looks exactly the same as it did on the tool. It uploads that way. And then also on this screen, there is a link. Right, this is multiple places in here, but this link allows us to share it. Right, so it allows us to share it in 3 ways. The first one's grayed out. We'll talk about that last. Second one here, send via email. So what that'll do is this Snap-on Cloud service works on a phone, tablet, laptop, desktop, PC, Mac. Doesn't matter. As long as you have access to a web browser and the internet, you can access this. So if I click send via email and I'm running this on a machine that has a built-in email client, like if I have Outlook installed or Windows Mail installed, like a default email service, it'll open up that default email provider. It'll compose a new email. It'll paste the link in there, and all you really got to do is put in the customer's email address, send it away, and you can share it and have that discussion with the customer. You can also copy it to the clipboard. That'll copy the link to the clipboard on the machine you're using and paste it wherever you need to. Maybe you're using web-based mail. Maybe you want to paste it into a repair order, which we're going to do here in a second, or send via SMS, which is grayed out. The reason that's grayed out is because I don't have this open on a phone. If I was using my phone, that would be available. I could click on it and it'll send it as a text message link to a customer. So we could text it to the customer. They can open it up from there and they'd be able to see it. So I want to copy this to the clipboard. And then let's go back over to my repair order here. I have Joe Johnson here on the bottom and I can paste it in there as a note, right? So we can go down here to my, my notes, right? And I can just paste that in there as a note. And then it is automatically attached to the repair order as a note. I could pull that up in the future, paste it in my web browser, and then I would have availability to that. So it would be tied together with my with my repair order, right? So it's always going to be there attached to my repair order. All right, so we went through that. We had the discussion with the customer, and the customer said, "Yep, sure, I'll authorize an hour or whatever diagnostic time in order to go through this problem." So first off, we have this P0300. So let's get more information on this. So this is running on a Zeus. So if you're not familiar with Zeus or the Apollos or the Triton, they have this thing called Intelligent Diagnostics on here. And what it does is it gives us access to more information on the problem at hand, right? Well, I wouldn't say more information. It's just organizes the information and filters it down based on the problem at hand. So for 2016 Chevy Tahoe with a P0300, this is the information it brings back for this based on everything that's in the tool. It also gives you a repeatable diagnostic workflow, as we talked about before. So if I were to read this page like a book, top to bottom, left to right, first thing I want to look at is TSBs, then my top repairs graph, and so on and so forth. So if it starts with the code, and I have 2 TSBs, how many TSBs can there be on a vehicle? There can be hundreds of different TSBs on a vehicle, depending on what we're looking at. So in this case, for a P0300, for a 2016 Tahoe, there's 2. All right, so let's click on that and see what comes up. If my mouse will click. What's going on here? Mouse. Huh. My mouse doesn't want to work today. Interesting. There we go. Okay. Stacked up some commands there. I love Wi-Fi doing this. Connected over Wi-Fi. What is going on today? I'm gonna have to reconnect. Let's reconnect. Not a good week for technology for me this week. All right, cool.
I think all the home offices are overloading the World Wide Web, Jason.
I think that might be the case. I'm going to reconnect one more time. I just reset it. So let's try that. Because I connect over the remote desktop. There we go. See if that worked. No. Cool. All right. 1 second. Al, it's the first time it's happened.
No, it's been a week and it's only Tuesday of first
I know it
month
has been a
thanks
week.
to the internet.
I hear you on that one. Let's get this set up then. Okay. I'm going to go through the old-fashioned way and use a touchscreen. Gotta get that in there. Let's see. Okay, so this should work now. Let's see. Transform. Fit to screen. Transition over. Send it over here. I don't know why it's not the right size. Ay, ay, ay. Wasn't set for this. Wasn't ready for this. Wow, why is it doing that? Okay, let's see. There we go. There we go. That's why. Okay, now fill it. Hey, there we go. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. So now we should be good to go. And we're still not good to go. What in the world is going on? Equipment failure. Good thing this is happening now, not on YouTube. Hey, Al. Can you get your Zeus online?
Did your little converter box?
No, it's just not responding. I'm rebooting. Let's see if that works. Yeah, thing's been on for like a week and a half. Probably doesn't.
I usually keep mine up and ready to go, but you're always so bulletproof. I didn't have mine on today.
First time for everything, right? Let me guess, Windows updates, I bet.
It's Thanksgiving week, Jason. It's
I
reminding
know,
us
everybody's on vacation, including all my technology this week, I guess, right?
reminding us we should be thankful that we have technology.
I'm just glad my
Oh,
internet's
wow.
up right now. My internet's been turning off and on for hours at a time all day. Oh yeah. Not loving life. Are you up?
I'm getting there.
Okay. I want to put you on the spot. I bet you we'll both come in at the same time.
Probably. Yep.
Thanks, Eli. I know. I remember the feeling, right? Oh yeah, it's only gonna take 5 minutes. Hey, I have a backup Zeus too. Let's try that. One of them will work. What's a Windows update? What a time for Windows to update me, huh?
Yes.
You guys get a little bonus material because I still got to get to the end of this. So a little extra time, maybe.
This is like the what do they call it? Cutouts at the end of the movie where they show you all the funny stuff behind the scenes.
Bloopers. It's a blooper reel.
Yep.
Glad it happened on this one, not the next one when I'm live on YouTube too. Really, I really don't like Bill Gates. Suppose it's not really his fault. Yes. Let's see if this one works. Yeah. I clicked it too many times. I know. Hey, there we go.
You're right. See, you got up before I did.
Did we tie? Tell you what, I'm gonna have my backup running the next class. That's for sure. That one's got to start too. Which one's gonna make it first? This one made it first. We'll go with this one.
Okay.
We'll go with this one. All right.
I was just logging into the calendar event.
Sorry about that. Okay. So let's see. There. On here. And for my Tahoe. Snappy. There we go. Okay. Hey guys, if you own a Zeus, restart it once a week.
Yes.
I need to practice what I preach, right? All right. We're good. We're good. It's 20.2, but it'll be good, close enough. Just got to get down to the bottom here. Oh, it's a scroll. There we go. All right, TSBs. There we go. TSBs. So TSBs are very important because manufacturers can discover things that you didn't even know was going on with the vehicle, right? So first one here says engine misfire may be due to loose spark plug wires. Let's click on that because that sounds pretty important. All right, so it gives us all the information. Looks like it pertains to about 2014 and newer Chevy trucks with V8 gas engines. We go down a little ways, it gives us an example of what the problem is. So what the problem is these vehicles are a coil near plug system, right? So each cylinder has a coil and a short little plug wire. On those short little plug wires, on the coil end, there are clips that are supposed to go over the end here and to tighten up the clip so it doesn't stay loose. If the clips pop off on this, then you'll have some sort of a misfire intermittent problem going on there. So when the clip goes missing, you'll see that that was there. So let's say, for example, maybe it's an aftermarket set of plug wires, or maybe the customer did their own tune-up and then now it's running worse than it did before. You just go check that and see if the clips are missing. Maybe they popped off when they pulled the wires off. It's entirely possible that it did. So let's say in this case, in this scenario that we're looking at on this sample vehicle, that yes, that was the problem. And we took a look at the plug wires, redid the plug wires, replaced the plug wires. And sure enough, that solved that problem, solved the drivability problem. But we still have that PO446 code in there, right? So let's switch over to that. There's my 446. Now we see in this case, I'm easily able to switch right from the top of the screen, right? No TSBs in this case. I have a green circle with a check mark. That indicates no issues there. So if we go top to bottom, left to right, over here we have the top repairs graph. That top repairs graph is going to be based on mileage. What was the most common thing replaced? Now, you may have seen a graph on any of our scan tools with Wi-Fi. We have graphs built in on everything except for the Ethos Edge. And it's based on our SureTrack data, which is based on over 1.3 billion real world repair orders for what was replaced on this problem. Now, on the non-intelligent diagnostic tools, it's called commonly replaced parts. On the intelligent diagnostic tools, it's called top repairs. Pulls off the same data, but it's a little bit more refined in the intelligent diagnostics. This first word right here is added on the intelligent diagnostics tool. So it gives you that extra layer of filter. Not only was it an evap canister, but we replaced it. Or was it something that was cleaned, or something that was adjusted, or something that was reprogrammed, right? So it gives you an action word at the beginning so you can filter down just that extra level. It's also based on mileage. So it's going to be over the first 200,000 miles of vehicle history. So let's say if the vehicle had, say, 50,000 miles on it, and we took and dropped the line right in here. What is that going to show us? Well, it looks like the number one repair in that case was the evap canister vent solenoid. What if it had 75,000 miles on it? Over here, the number one report is the canister itself. All right, so different number of repairs based on mileage, right? So you can see, maybe it's not really cut and dry. It's something that it could be a complex repair or a complex diagnosis. You can go look through there and see what was the most common thing. Now, I'm not going to tell you just go ahead and replace the most common thing, because that's a really bad idea. But maybe that's the first place I check. Maybe that's the first place I look. Okay, so top to bottom, left to right. Next thing is smart data. Let's see what the computer's thinking. Now, how many data PIDs can there be on a vehicle? There can be hundreds of data PIDs on a vehicle, right? How do I know which ones I want to look at for just this particular problem? Well, in this case, we have an indication. What it does is it takes all of the PIDs for that problem, and then it filters it down based on the code. Right, so based on this code, I have however many PIDs are up here on the screen instead of the hundreds that I could be filtering through. Filters it down to the pertinent PIDs, and then gives us these flags, depending on what the situation is and what the data we have. If it's a blue flag or a blue outlined white flag, which would be a better, more accurate description of that, means the PID is being monitored. Once it goes out of a preset maximum or minimum value, it then turns red. And it will also mark the recording for us as well. Also marks all the other data PIDs at the same time, right? So if I wanted to open any other random data PID, I'm going to find a gray line across all of them. And it saves it automatically, saves it to the vehicle record for us. So it gives us an indication of where to look. So in this case, the fuel tank pressure sensor is showing negative 3.44. Right, so it looks like it should show maybe a little bit of vacuum under certain conditions, but if it's showing excessive vacuum while also the evap vent solenoid valve is set to venting, notice that as well. Let me minimize that. So the vent solenoid valve second PID here says venting. That means it should be open to outside air. So in that case, we should not be able to build vacuum inside the fuel tank because the vent valve is open. Now, if the vent valve is closed, then we could build a vacuum in the tank. All right, so if the purge valve is open and the vent valve is closed, it'll draw a vacuum in the tank, and that's how it tests for leaks. But if it's supposed to be venting and it's not, well, that could be our problem right there, right? The computer is sending the command for vent, but that doesn't mean it is venting. And we do have a code for it too for performance, so leads us down a little bit more of a path. So let's go to the next thing. Back up a little bit. Come down here to functional tests. Functional tests and resets gives us multiple options related to our problem. Once again, the filter tests are on the top. Other tests are available at the bottom. So if I go to the vent solenoid valve, test will not function if the onboard evap is running, which it's not. So we can go in here, and it gives us some data PIDs to go along with it, which is nice. And then I can just come up here and say venting or not venting. So I can command it to open, and I can command it to close. Now, in this case, we could use our senses to see where the problem is. I could feel the valve, perhaps, or I could listen for the valve and see if it's opening or closing. And maybe it is, maybe it's not, right? Since it's wirelessly connected to the car, we could go through and go to the back, because it's somewhere in the back in the frame area, and set it to venting or not venting, right? Now, where is it? Not entirely sure where it is. One other thing we can do from here is we have our intelligent diagnostics, but also down here at the bottom, we have a quick link to repair information. So if you have Shopkey or Mitchell, you can click on this. It'll log you into your vehicle, or it'll log you into your account, log the vehicle in, and then it'll also do a search for the code we're on as well. So it's doing all that for me right now. Looks like my internet's working, so that's good. Go in here, just make a couple other selections, and use this vehicle. So you'll notice it does a search for the P0446, so I have that right there. And click on that, and then it gives me some information. All right, not exactly the information, right? All right, oh, I got to change the engine too, right? There we go. Options. There we go. That should be better. There we go. P0446. All right, there we go. All right, so it pulls up my information, testing, operation, parts and labor, etc. So that's additional information there. We could also get wiring diagrams if we needed to on the vent valve. All right, so let's go back here. So we went through, if we go top to bottom, there, and then we go to guided component test, right? Guided component test is where we're going to verify the voltage in the back and verify that the solenoid is actually working. How am I going to do that when I also need to run a functional test in order to turn it on and off to see if it's working or not? So we can do a little trick here and actually look at them both on the same screen. So let's go into functional resets again. Go to my vent solenoid valve. Come in here, and then I'm just going to leave it on this screen. All right? So I'm going to go to my home screen. And I'm going to pull up my guided component test this way. If I pull up my guided component test inside Intelligent Diagnostics, I won't be able to do screen and screen. I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to pull up my engine. And I'm going to go in my evap system and my vent solenoid, because that's what we were looking for, right? Vent solenoid. And I'm going to do a DC voltage test. It gives us loads of information on it as well, but I just want to be able to test it. All right, so yellow goes to vent control. So vent control is the white wire, it's pin 1 right there. Black to a known good ground. All right, so we want to make sure it is a known good ground, chassis ground, something like that. During the OBD2 monitor, the PCM energizes the solenoid, allowing vacuum and pressure to build in the fuel tank. Should see a 1/10 of a volt or less on the control side when it's energized. And then I'm going to move my test lead. So when it's energized, it should see ground. I should see 12 volts on the other side because that's the power supply, right? Voltage positive. Then, key on engine running, the PCM de-energizes the vent solenoid to allow a purge. Vent solenoid is normally open, so I should see 12 volts on both A and B with the other meter lead connected to ground when it's de-energized. All right, so let's say we're going in here and it's energized. All right, so hit view meter and testing on the solenoid control. We should see a 1/10 of a volt or less, and we do. Now I want to be able to control this on off and see what's going on here. So if I hit meter again, makes a window. Can go back over here, go into scanner, and then here's my functional test. Once I go up down here, I can open up my scope viewer, snap that to the right, snap this to the left. Now I can set it to venting and not venting. And let's say, in this case, as we're testing it, real world here, nothing's changing. Nothing's changing on the control side. I'm sending out the command. The computer is commanding it, but nothing's happening. It's not changing at all. My voltage isn't changing. Now, if it's off, right, we should see 12 volts on both sides, and I don't, right? So it should change from 12 volts to no volts, 12 volts to no volts. It's not changing off that 0 volt. So what if I remove this from the solenoid and then I go over to the power supply side to verify the power is going in, and then I get this? That is also not doing. What in the world is going on with my equipment today? Oh, I'm on the wrong Zeus. Yeah, so let's say I say 12 volts up here, right? So if I had 12 volts in and 0 volts out in any state, then that indicates an open inside the solenoid. And that means the solenoid is bad, right? I'm able to test that on the screen, and I'd be able to see what's going on. Right? Now, if I did see 0 volts and then 12 volts as I'm switching it on and off, then I know the solenoid is working, and I know the ground supply is working too. So I'd probably have to look for an intermittent problem of some sort. But once again, if I was clicking at the venting and not venting and it's clicking, then we know it's working as well. All right, so let's say in this case, for this test, we tested that solenoid and the solenoid is just not working. And that's where we're going to leave off this week. Is we tested the solenoid. Solenoid's no good. We verified the solenoid's no good because I have power in and I have no power getting out the other side. We could also, suppose, do a resistance test on it as well. But in this case, no voltage in, no voltage out. That indicates it's bad. And that's where we're going to leave off this week and pick up next week, where we're going to talk about ordering the part and verifying the repair.
And with that, that is our time here today. So make sure you tune in for new diagnostic content every week. We will be premiering a new video every Wednesday at 7 p.m. UK time. So make sure you check it out on the YouTube channel. If you're watching, well, of course, you would be watching this on YouTube, but make sure you subscribe, thumbs up, ring the little notification bell so you know anytime we post new content. And it's youtube.com/SnapOnDiagnosticsUK. With that, time for questions. If you have any questions, just feel free. Once again, if you're watching this on a premiere, just leave it in the live chat and we'll answer those. Otherwise, leave a comment under the video and we will get to those as we monitor those comments as well. So I'd like to thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your day to learning a little bit more about how you might be able to be more efficient at diagnosing vehicles using some of the information that we've given you today. Hopefully we'll see you next week. Hopefully you can watch and see you on any of our other videos. Have a good week. Have a good night and take care.